This is the language from the Integrated Academic and Facilities Plan that you approved last year. And I just want to highlight that UH Manoa has a specific role within the UH system and in the state of Hawaii as our only research university. And this lays out the language. UH Manoa is one of probably only 3, maybe 2 universities in the country that are land grant, sea grant, space grant, and sun grant. And that's really a credit to our faculty who have identified the opportunities to leverage our location and our strengths across all of these areas. Again, we are one of only 81 public R1 universities in the country, and I've shared a little bit about our rankings. We, of course, report on all the rankings where we do well, and we don't talk about the rankings where we don't do well. This is my saddest slide, but Regent Portnoy advised all of us, and I've asked all of the chancellors, so goose for the gander, or food for the gander, whatever. This is our metrics according to the system performance metrics. Pearl provided these to me, and she asked if I needed anything else, and I said I need more greens. So I'm going to say a little bit about what we're doing. The data is the data. Our number of degrees are not where we need them to be overall, although we're doing okay on STEM. The yellow means we're holding our own, but we are not increasing at the rate that we put out there. And I'll show you a little bit about data of why that has happened and what we're doing to try to reach it. The red means we are actually not making progress at all. So let me say a little bit first about enrollment. This was a pretty good year. We've been focused on this, I think, super intensely for about 1.5 years now with a campus-wide strategic enrollment management group that has been collaborating with across multiple units, I'll just say that. So here are some of the great highlights. I'm proudest of having the largest first-year class in campus history. Our retention rate is up, our highest ever. We've been trying to crack 80%, and you can see we're almost there. We continue to increase our 4-year graduation rate. This won us a national award last year for not what the rate is, but for the work we're doing to increase it. And in particular, I think these numbers are quite remarkable, the increases in the 4-year graduation rates for Native Hawaiians and for Filipino students. You'll notice that Filipino students have a higher 4-year graduation rate than the campus as a whole. And this will be, we'll have a lot more about enrollment management when Vice President Straney presents in great detail to the ASA committee next month. I won't go through all of these, but we are looking very carefully at recruitment and how we can do better. We have engaged an external consultant who works with universities across the country, both to help us do better now, but also to help educate us about what best practices are. My belief is we're quite far behind the best practices across the country. We haven't been serious. We haven't applied the best sorts of analytics that are available, and we're jump-starting ourselves by bringing in external help. The numbers I've showed you are mostly good news about undergraduates. We have to do much better on our graduate enrollment as well, and we need to start that focus. It's very different than undergraduate enrollment because students apply at the undergraduate level to UH Manoa. At the graduate level, they are applying to a particular program in a particular college. So we have a set of issues we need to work through together. Let me just also highlight some work we're doing on financial aid, which is incredibly decentralized across the campus. We have, for this year, probably 80 to 100 different units that award some amount of financial aid, either institutional and or foundation aid. We're trying to bring that together for a strategy and, again, get external help on strategies that will actually help us, both on the recruitment side and on the retention side. And as you will see next month, at UH Manoa in particular, we believe that the unconstrained growth in our non-resident tuition has really hurt us in recruiting from the mainland and internationally, and we'll update you on that in the context of the overall UH tuition schedule next month. In retention, we have a great Hanai program. Thank you, Chair Putnam, for participating. And this is helping our students connect with someone. Interestingly, these are mentors, so similar to what we learned from the Gallup study, that this is really important for students. We're also working harder with our students about registration. So if we see that a freshman has not registered for the sophomore year, we are directly reaching out to them, asking them why, and trying to problem solve. Sometimes it's a library fine, could be almost anything stopping them. We're also continuing to advance our national award-winning STAR software, and we're bringing in an early alert system to help detect students who are at risk so we can intervene early on. And lastly, let me mention our UH Manoa advising team was selected by NACADA, their national organization, for the first cohort of a project that's looking at how we can improve academic advising across the campus. So I want to show the numbers. This is incredibly depressing, but Regent Portnoy really likes bad news. So here it is in all its truth. This is, there's lots of numbers we look at. We look at student semester hours delivered, majors, head count. This one happens to be SSH, and to avoid a data deluge, because I really just want to make a point. This is the last 6 years of decline that you see here, and we fully acknowledge those 6 years of decline. As you can see, it was actually escalating decline. Last year we slowed the decline. This year we actually have a net positive in enrollment head count. But this is for the campus. This graph, and I know it's small and I don't really want to dig in gory detail today on this, but we're looking at this now on a college by college and school by school level. And so the point of this is to show you, this is 2 years, this is about, I think 4 years ago, and then last year. What are the numbers of SSH within each school and college? And you can see the declines are at different levels, and in some schools and colleges we actually have increases. And this is reflecting the choices that students are making, both for majors but also the elective courses that they're taking to fulfill their general education requirements or address their interests in life. And you can see we do have some schools and colleges that are growing, others that are shrinking a little bit, and others that are shrinking a lot. And the different metrics give you different looks at it, but this is how we actually have to understand what our student choices are if we're going to make a difference for them. Similarly, this is graduates, and this is, this explains to you why we're not making our metrics. You can see we had an incredible growth in the numbers of graduates for several years. This was the hard work done certainly before I was interim chancellor, where we were really getting students through the pipeline. Unfortunately for UH Manoa, this is when we set our benchmarks. So we sort of cleared the pipeline. We were not recruiting adequately to fill that pipeline, and you can see this huge drop in number of graduates from which we are just now starting to recover with new students. So it actually doesn't look good for the next several years in terms of meeting those benchmarks, but I'm confident we can bring that back as we grow back our entire student body and continue to get them out on time, either 4 years or at worst, hopefully 6 years. And again, this gives you a feel for the changes past 4 years ago to present, and you can see we do have units that are increasing the number of graduates even as the total campus output declined after we pushed people through the pipeline who were already in it, who had come to us during the recession. Let me shift to research for a moment. I reported a few months ago that UH Manoa was up for last year. It was a small but nice increase. That impacts us on our ability to invest in research. So this year we have about $2 million additional in RTRF based on that increase in research last year. And so far, first quarter, not to jinx it, but we're up about 14%. And it's not just the research dollars. It's also the work we're doing to fulfill our mission as Hawaii's research university and connect that research to undergraduate learning. And that's a new office that's been established in the a new undergraduate research office under the Vice Chancellor for Research. It was established last year, and then over the summer we had our first set of undergraduate research programs. I'll just highlight a couple of these. Normally you see these when they come in, and I've talked about them. Some of these are big, but they're hitting areas that are really important to Hawaii, that are our areas of expertise, excellence, and relevance. And I just want to highlight this last one. I just got email about this last week. Our Language Flagship Technology Innovation Center, which is considered the best in the country by DoD for the application of technology to teach languages. We have an incredibly strong language flagship program based in the College of Language, Linguistics, and Literature. This has been a huge focus of our efforts across the last really 4 years, I'll say, and I'm just going to show you one slide that I think captures it. This gives you an idea of what was evident, and when I first became interim president, this was something that Regents pointed out to me, that you could pick up even from our financial statements that the reserves were in precipitous decline, that there was no explanation of how these were being spent on one-time or non-recurring funds. So these were actually commitments of resources that would have continued if not stopped. I'll just say this was incredibly painful for the campus over these past 3 or 4 years, as we have had to restrain spending in the colleges, in the administrative units. We restricted access to the carry forward balances. That is, to the extent deans were able to put something aside for special projects, that those were not spent. But you can see the success of this at a macro level, and you see it also in our operating budget. This shows the reestablishment of our reserves. The line is the 5% minimum level in policy. We are not yet all the way up to the 16% desirable. That's 2 months of reserves. We have a lot of work to do yet, but we have restored compliance with policy and I think reasonable health. That said, everyone is still in pretty serious pain with the spending restrictions that have been imposed in order to restore financial stability to the campus. We have 2 missions for the University of Hawaii that are unique that the Board of Regents have adopted. One was our commitment to sustainability, and one to our commitment to be a model Indigenous serving university. I won't say too much about sustainability. I just have 2 points to make. One is last year we established a new Institute for Sustainability and Resilience. This does not live in any one school or college. It is interdisciplinary. It is fully cross-campus. You'll get a report on this in Research and Innovation next month. So I'll stop right there, except to say I'm delighted that Dr. McKenna Kaufman has agreed to be our first director. Some of you will know her also as the chairman of the Mayor's Council on Climate and Sustainability. So that's an example of where we bring our work within the academy out and truly impact the community we serve. Just demonstrating how interdisciplinary this is. Her academic appointment is actually in urban and regional planning, not the first place one usually looks for a sustainability expert. And then you get an update on this every year, but we are deeply committed to sustainability on the campus. This has been taken much longer than any of us believed. I will say that this project to install PV on campus started at least 4 or 5 years ago. The first alarm that I got about the parking structure and the challenges we faced with potential health and safety risks was when we got a report from our engineering staff that our parking structure might not be able to support a photovoltaic canopy. And my first thought was, if it can't support a canopy, how can it support cars and people? And so the engineering studies that you see that we're trying to address indicated that we're okay for the PV, thank goodness, and we need to do something about the overall structure and its integrity for cars and people as well. So this is now on track. We're trying to get our permits, and we hope to have this done next year. I'll say you get a report on this every year during our sustainability updates, but I wanted to put it in the context of the campus as well. Another area that we've been working that is, again, a unique area for the University of Hawaii, unlike universities across the country, is our commitment to be a Native Indigenous serving university. It is a process. It is not an outcome. I realized as interim chancellor that it wasn't going to happen if we didn't have somebody who got up every morning and was thinking about it and giving me advice, and our administrative team, our faculty, our students, our staff. So we did recruit and rehire a Native Hawaiian Affairs specialist in the Chancellor's office, Punihe Leip, some of you may know. She's been doing amazing work over just a year, including a retreat with the Kuali'i Council. Last week, we had a major conference for the entire campus on this work. I won't go through all of these, but she's really made a difference at every level operationally, and she's been an integral part of our strategic planning for the campus. And interestingly, this week I attended the regular meeting of our accreditation team as we move forward with the next steps in accreditation. And we have selected Aloha Aina as our theme for our next accreditation submittal to WASC. Finally, I'll mention that she's been the lead on a project to assess the Title III federal money. We've received, and I've reported on you previously, well over $50 million in federal money for various forms of educational advancement for Native Hawaiians. And the U.S. Department of Education came to me actually about 3 years ago and asked if we could do an evaluation of all the investments they had made. And that assessment is just about to be completed. So let me close with a section about some of the changes we're making that are pretty substantive, I believe. Nervous as I'm making people with a number of reorganizations, the fundamental structure of the campus remains intact. We are looking at areas where we need greater interdisciplinarity that crosses schools and colleges with what we're calling virtual institutes. And these are a way for the campus to look at areas that are really important to us. In some cases, they're excellent. We have excellence. In some cases, we don't have excellence, but we need excellence. And we have 3 that we've started so far. I mentioned the Institute for Sustainability and Resilience. Data science is an area where we don't have the excellence yet, but we need it. We have a number of great recruits, and I'll show you some of what we're doing. And then you've heard about Simaiki a couple of times and their great work in the microbiome, in ocean, land, and through the Ahupua'a, and also in human health. These things are already starting to pay off for us. None of them are more than a year old. So, you know, we don't know yet just how successful they'll be. What's interesting is we are not putting faculty in these. Faculty remain where they are. These provide a focus for the campus in these critical areas. The heart of this is really our faculty, of course. And I've mentioned previously our work to bring campus level position control into place. So when we have vacancies, those vacancies return to the campus, they don't necessarily remain within the college. The deans make their cases, and you can see we have been hiring strategically in areas. And what's interesting about this is that these are areas of importance to us and to the community and for the future of UH Manoa. But when we hire in these areas, they are not necessarily hired in any one particular school. So it's not just a matter of giving positions to a dean to hire. It's a matter of trying to focus the hires in the areas within different schools and colleges, the areas that are important to us. And we will be bringing in external consultants next month to help us with some collaborative establishment of priorities. As you can imagine, not everybody would agree that these are the 4 most important areas. We do have others. Certainly our Asia Pacific focus is critical. Our Indigenous Studies focus is critical, but those take place also across the campus, and everyone doesn't agree, and we can use a little bit of help in external help in fostering those conversations in a positive way. We have a set of organizational changes that I've mentioned all of these in the past. Tim and Scheidler on track for this year, we think. Merger of Arts and Humanities, LLL, and SPAs on track this year. Michael Bruno and I met with over 100 faculty in an open meeting on this one last week. And my plan is next month to bring to you a proposal for the restructuring of the Manoa Chancellor and Vice Chancellor's office, including the implications for that with the merger with between the position, remerger of the position of Manoa Chancellor. And let me close with this, and I'll just foreshadow, you'll have a long conversation, but our work to think about the physical campus and how it creates the environment for all of these things to take place is absolutely essential. And I'm thrilled with the work that we're doing that's really groundbreaking in looking holistically at the campus as was noted, a place to live, work, and play, and bring in student, faculty, staff life in addition to just being a place for classes and labs.